Hey guys, it's Caleb with White Metal Games here. Just a quick update. It is Tuesday, the 4th of December, and not a lot going on here at the studio right now. It's been kind of quiet the last couple of days, so I've been trying to use some time to catch up. Let me just show you a little bit of what we've been working on here in the studio and give you a quick 2-cent store tour. So I did a lot of cleaning up because we're working on some more terrain projects. Here's the start of our next terrain project. You've got to start off with your basic materials. This is some, they call it hardboard, which I like a little bit better than MDF because it's cheaper, it's much more available, and it's very, very durable, and it doesn't warp over time like wood, so it has all the advantages of MDF and all the advantages of something very cheap. Some new terrain projects we're working on. We've got some craters coming up. I'm always looking for ways to do terrain quickly with stuff like spray paints and stuff if I can. So this is just a sort of a test we did just using spray paint. And as you can see, we used 2 tones of brown plus black to make the crater look blackened. And that's not bad for a tabletop crater, literally just using spray paint with no more effort applied to it than if you had primed a miniature. So it's not too bad. Let's see. Got some trees. We're going to be working on some new tree terrain that we're going to be offering up for people. We're going to build and paint that and see if people are interested in it at all. So nothing too crazy there. The big projects this week were Demon Princes. They were very, very popular last week. We sold quite a few. So I decided to go ahead and do a few more just because I had a kit on my shelf and I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and burn it out. The 4-armed Demon Prince was a really popular variant, so I decided to do a couple more of those. So we'll let's see what we got here. Start with these guys. So here's the first one. So this is a Cornish-style Demon Prince. He is 4-armed, like I mentioned. Now, a couple interesting details about this piece. So he's got the dual axes, which I like a lot. I thought about giving him a mace, but some people aren't into the mace idea. They're not crazy about the black mace. There's still some debate about it. I used this hand here because scale-wise it goes very well with the axe hand on the other side. And then these 2 lower arms are actually Minotaur arms, so they're slightly smaller. But if you look at it just as sort of a quick shot, it's pretty close in scale. Because the Demon Prince kit is kind of all over the place. Some of the stuff is 60 mil, some of the stuff is 40 mil. It's just kind of all up and down. The whip is actually from, insofar as I know, a Bloodthirster originally, but it was a bit that I had from some leftover kit. So although he's got a whip, it doesn't really have any in-game effect other than just looking interesting. But I always like Demon Princes with whips and stuff when they're corn flavored because I really like the look of that Bloodthirster look. The legs on this guy are a little bit different. I'm trying to hold it in close to sort of focus on it. So I was buying some legs for another conversion, and I'll show him to you in a minute. And so I got these from the Mauler Fiend kit. These are the smallest set of legs, I believe. And they scale really, really well for a Demon Prince, as you can see here. The problem is that when I bought them from the bits vendor, they forgot to include the feet for it. They're supposed to come with hooves. So these I had left over from a Giant, from the Warhammer Fantasy Giant. So what I did was basically just extend the legs to connect to the hooves. Now, it looks like it's quite a long extension. It's really not that long. The reality is they touch, but I just used some gray stuff to sort of make it look like a fleshy area where his legs end and the machine legs begin. And I think it looks pretty decent. I think it works fine. I think once you get it primed up, it'll look sharp. So there he is in all his glory. He stands a little bit taller than a traditional Demon Prince because of the legs and the way they extend. But I like that metallic look to the legs to make it look like he's sort of turning into part machine, part Demon Prince. This is a Nurgle Demon Prince. The wings come from a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Baxter Stockman figure from the 90s, which I had bought a few of these for some conversions of some Harpies back in the day, and I started to move into more traditional Harpies with all GW bits. The arm is from a Great Unclean one, and so is the shoulder pad. I didn't strip down the shoulder pad all the way. I probably should have, but I figured that it's close enough to the metal, the white metal at this point, that you can probably just prime over that and it'd be fine. The lower arms are the bulkier arms, which I liked because I felt like they were closer to the Great Unclean One arm, which is a very bulky sort of fist. And then this right arm, although the top portion of it is from The Minotaur kit, the hand is actually from, and this is something that's kind of clever, it's from the Fantasy Giant kit. Now it's slightly different fingers, it's only 4 fingers on this one, whereas the Great Unclean One's hand has 5 fingers, I believe, but they're that thick, bulky, bulbous finger, which I liked a lot, so I felt like, it's close enough. And you won't really pay attention to it unless you're looking for it. Now, the Giant traditionally holds a villager and kind of a fantasy figure, but that didn't really work for the 40K scene, so what I did was I snipped the villager's legs and arms and head, and I swapped them out with bits from an Imperial Guardsman and the helmet. And so if you look closely, you'll see that his shirt really has no decoration at all. It's just a tunic from the fantasy kit. But once you throw in the khaki pants, the head, the las pistol, it starts to fade away. And once you just imagine that with some camouflage, it's going to look fine. Now, flies traditionally have 6 limbs, and plus their wings, so that's the 4 arms works for this guy very, very well. So I like that look. And on the back, I did a little sculpting to create some shoulder muscles and that sort of thing. Better than the last attempt, so I'm getting better. This attempt worked better, I think. Nice and simple. So there's those 2, and then for the coup de grace, this is the Angron I was working on a few weeks ago. And you may remember him from an earlier video. So it's important to note that this figure is meant to be sort of an exhibition piece. He is much larger than traditional Demon Prince. Here's a shot of him side by side with these 2. So you can see normal sized Demon Prince, slightly larger Demon Prince, Angron. Now the reason I made him that big was because he is a 500 point model in the game. There was a White Dwarf that was published with his rules a few years ago as an exhibition style model, and when they did that, they sort of threw it all out there just to say this is what we think he should be. And he's a hand-to-hand machine. Now, by today's standards, he's probably not as great at 500 points as a lot of other figures are at lower points values. But at the time, he was very cool. He still is very cool. I do think his rules could probably use an updating, but like most Apocalypse units, they sort of get dropped on the community and then sort of get forgotten. Now, the base model for this guy is a Cygor. And then modifying that, we used these arms from a Mauler Fiend that I had left over. They have a nice mechanical look to them. The head is from a Reaper miniature that's meant to be like a King Kong style miniature. The shoulder pads are from a toy Mattel figure, a Skeletor figure. And then the wings are from a Tyranid Harpy. And then the sword is from a Soul Grinder. And then there's lots of Cygor bits on there. This spiky collar bit there around his head. It's from the Chaos Sprue for vehicles. And then if you look really close, you can see he's actually got some hoses coming out of his neck with some gray stuff hair sort of sculpted up there. And I made all those choices aesthetically because that's what the original picture, to me, looked like. It kind of has this... He has a demonic-looking face, but he almost has sort of an ape-like quality to him, which I really, really liked and wanted to capture. So even though it does look like he's sort of a giant ape Demon Prince, I kind of dig it. I think it works really well. And I think once painted up, he'll work well. I like this sort of mane of hair / sinewy flesh he's got going. Where does one end? Where does the next begin? And yes, although traditionally the Angron Primarch figure from Forge World has double axes, Gore Child and Gore Father. In the fluff, or not in the fluff, in the White Dwarf where he was published, he was clutching a weapon called the Black Blade. Now, they didn't get into the details, but they didn't call it the Black Axe, so I assumed it was a sword of some sort. And I also assumed that, just like Gore Child went to Karn, Gore Father must have either been lost or discarded, or who knows where it ended up. So I was originally going to use different legs on this figure. I was originally going to use the legs from the Mauler Fiend as well, but when I scaled them, I realized that the legs are so small comparatively. These figures are really 2 different weight classes altogether. So it just wasn't going to work, unfortunately. I wanted to use those mechanical-looking legs, but it just was the wrong size. There was nothing in the Mauler Fiend kit that was big enough. So I decided to go with the traditional Cygor legs, which I think work really well. And, you know, he's kind of a neat exhibition piece. And when you put him up against some of my other models, like, well, let's see, we can actually have a Primarch parade real quick, because although I've built a couple of Primarchs the last month, I haven't sold many this month. So let's see what we got going on here. So we've got Magnus, the red. which I don't know if you've seen him before, but I did him a few weeks ago. I did him because I had done another one a few weeks before that. It came out really well, and I really liked him. So I decided to do a second one. Here is Sarpedon, Chapter Master of the Soul Drinkers, and Angron. So there you go. There's a March of Primarchs for you. Sarpedon is a part of a diorama that I did, which I really like. Although, you know, he's a very large Demon Prince. He's much larger than traditionally. When people traditionally see a Sarpedon figure, they look for the Space Marine on 60mm spider body, and they call it a day. I just feel like that's a little boring. I like the look of this figure. I think he came out really well. I like the Soul Sphere with this massive blade and that big spider body. I think he works really well, actually. I'm a fan of this figure. If I played Soul Drinkers as a Chaos Chapter, this is how I would do it. Today, not, if I was. Anyway, here's Magnus. He was based on a 40mm figure, make him a little smaller. And you can check out my other videos to show more details on him. But I think he came out pretty well, too. I'll put him away later. Alright, so that's it for now. So sorry if this was more of a rambling video. It's just late, I'm tired, and we got the holidays coming up, so we're trying to get ready for stuff. We are talking to the guys over at Adepticon now to see if we are interested in becoming a vendor for them for this for the con next year. I've never approached doing a con before, so the actual tackling it as a vendor is a different beast entirely than tackling it as a player. And I've never done playing at one either, so that's kind of interesting. So more to come on that to see if I actually decide to go through with it. We know that it's going to cost thousands of dollars just to be able to go and bring inventory there, and then we'd have to have a lot of inventory to sell. And I just think most of Adepticon, the spectacle really is the gaming. So if I bring inventory, I want to make sure I'm going to sell. I want to make sure I'm going to make my money. So I gotta think more about it before I make a rash decision on it. The only other thing I have to show you real quick while I'm thinking about it is I did a few more terrain projects this week. Here is a large Manufactorum wall I did. This is a two-tone grayscale wall out of heavy styrofoam on a hardboard base. So you can see the hardboard with a stucco material used for basing, and then the Mechanicus symbol. Now, it looks kind of blue under this light because that's just the way the light is doing it. And as you can barely see, there's 5 of those. I'll put a link below to my eBay store. So the terrain we've been building has been fairly popular, which is why I'm continuing to do it. We're selling at least a piece or two a week, which is nice because most of it is priced to move. It's priced for $15, $20, $25. Nothing is over 30, I think, for the most part. There are some big pieces that are very nice that are priced in the 40s and 50s, and a couple in the hundreds because they're rare and they take a lot of work to build. But for the most part, most of the terrain is priced very reasonably. So if you're looking for some good, decent wargame terrain, check out our link. Of course, if you live in the Raleigh area and you're interested in applying, contact me at calebfilm@yahoo.com. We are still looking for painters and a web designer. We did get one painter from our advertising, and we've looked at a couple other guys who are interested in applying with us, so we're talking to them now. But we're certainly looking to expand, so we're looking for fresh faces. So if you live in the Raleigh area and you see this, just contact me, and that's about it. So have a good week. I will at least have 1 or 2 more videos before Christmas, and take care. Put your minis where your mouth is. Good night.